Tuesday, and Steve Cunningham of Sensus Fidelium is with us to share some of his personal testimony. We'll hear about his early life right up through the good work he's doing now. Today, on The Simple Truth, we consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong, chaste heart of Saint Joseph. Our guest today is Steve Cunningham of Sensus Fidelium and Sensus Fidelium Press. You can find him by going to sensusfidelium.com and sensusfideliumpress.com. Many of you are probably familiar with the work of Sensus Fidelium via the YouTube channel. That's how I'm most familiar with it, but also gaining more familiarity with Sensus Fidelium Press. They've been putting out some great titles. In fact, we've got an interview with Father Robert Nixon this Thursday on a title back from the late 1500s called The Devil's Bagpipe, The True Life of Martin Luther. And that's the title, an updated title that's been given to this 1581 work, where really gets into the truth about who Martin Luther really is, and really debunking a lot of the myths that have been put out there about him. And so that's going to be an interesting interview coming up this Thursday, just a couple days away from that. But again, that's one of those titles from Sensus Fidelium Press. And there's a whole bunch of other great ones. Again, sensusfideliumpress.com for more on those great books that they continue to come out with. But Steve Cunningham, welcome to The Simple Truth. Thank you for being with us today. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for being with us. And so we always begin at the beginning with these personal testimonies. So let's start with childhood. What was your early life like, your family, and the culture that you grew up in?
Wow, you went all the way back there. I grew up in Cowpen, South Carolina, which I doubt anybody listening has ever heard of before. It's one of those, we had one stoplight city, Revolutionary War town. If you're familiar with the movie The Patriot, the last battle scene is supposed to be the Battle of Cowpens, the turning point of the war. But yeah, grew up there, and Mom was the Catholic in the house. Dad was I won't even say nominal, a non-practicing Presbyterian. And so I just remember days of going up and saying a rosary with Mom and then running downstairs to watch the ball games with Dad. Go to Mass every Sunday. Mom would drag us in. Remember going to adorations at 5 a.m. before school. Most of us would I think all three of us were sleeping and were trying to stay awake in the chapel back in the day, and then head off to school and practice afterwards. I mean, really, we just cared about, cared about sports, ball, just playing, and church was something we did in my mind. We said rosaries every day, and that was something we did on Sundays or Saturday evenings, depending. And the joke about my grandma was she was one of those homes that you'd genuflect when you passed by. She was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and 40,000 statues on a little cabinet in the house, and 8, 9, 10 grandchildren running around, and somehow none of the statues ever broke, and balls are flying everywhere, kicking all that. But we all knew if we would have messed up a statue, we would probably be dead. And this was one of those things. This was like we knew it was like it wasn't the church, but it was like, hey, Grandma's got a holy thing going, and church, photos all over the place. And Mom had that too. We had the photos in the house. Dad didn't stop her from doing that. And long story short on Dad, he ended up converting about a year before he died. So good timing. And on top of that, was not that great of a priest. So great. No matter what kind of priest you had, they can still help somebody in. So it was mostly just it was a punch card Catholic growing up. I mean, I could probably scandalize people for just the way sometimes with the Mass, flip flops sometimes. I remember back before I came back in, I was drinking at a friend's house at watching Notre Dame football. He was a block away from the parish, and I went, it's halftime. I'm going to go to Mass, and I'll come back afterwards, and we'll finish the game. And I did. I mean, that's how much I pretty much did not kind of care at the time. They were just, like I said, punch cards. Going in confession, pretty much the same thing over and over. You didn't get out, and I don't know how many communions of mortal sin that I had, if I even knew what I was doing at the time. But Yeah, people knew me at the bars as the Catholic guy in trivia. Oh yeah, he'll know this one. I had know nothing, and there's a scripture question of trivia. Yeah, I had no clue. So yeah, as they say, Catholic in name only. The nominals. Went to Catholic school growing up, not knowing anything, not learning the faith, and we had nuns at our St. Paul Elementary. That school now has pretty much the exact enrollment for the entire school as my third grade classes. Or was back then. So it's dropped off woodwork. So, it's, I don't know. I don't want to go into too much deeper. But, that's growing up, it was more sports related. I mean, bowling, golf, baseball, basketball, football, tennis. If it was a game, we were ready to play it, read about it, watch it. Used to practice shooting hoops for about 6 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty relatable. I mean, it sounds like a story that many of us have some familiarity with ourselves. In fact, I'm guessing you're probably about the same age as me. I born in 1977, graduated from high school 1995. And it sounds a lot like when I was growing up, a lot what you're describing. But share with us a little bit more. I guess we always try to follow the sacramental graces. So you would have been baptized as an infant, first penance, confession, first Holy Communion, probably about second grade or so. And then what about confirmation? That's usually an interesting time, especially during the time that we grew up in. I don't know what it was in your diocese. For me, it was junior year of high school. And that's a tough time to be trying to corral young people and hope that they're in a state of grace if the folks that are in charge of it even care about sanctifying grace or people being in a state of sanctifying grace. They ought to. But what was it like in your parish? What was it like, I guess, following those graces, that time of confirmation? Did that mean anything to you at that point?
Oh, we're 2 years off. I was born in 1979 and graduated in 1997. So. Yeah, confirmation. You could put a gun to my head. I couldn't tell you anything that was taught to me at that time on confirmation. I picked the saint. Went with Saint Stephen because he was I remember my brother laughed at me. He goes, "That was the laziest thing you ever did." I picked Stephen because he was the same name, and I didn't want to do the research on it. And it was the first martyr. I was like, "Okay, that's good enough for me."
Yeah, that's actually hilarious because I did the same exact thing. And I picked, my name is Jim. I picked James. And so, so it would be, I didn't even think about it at all. And it would be, so then the name becomes, right, James, and then my middle name's Robert. So James Robert, James Havens for you, Steve. And then you get another Steve in there. I mean, so it's good to meet somebody else who is that ridiculous as me back in the day. But anyway, as you went forward, was there anybody at the parish? What was the parish like? Was there a priest? Was there somebody who some good example besides your mom and your grandmother that were there to kind of just show some evidence that the Catholic faith is real?
Well, the nuns, I guess, but I just remember them, but I don't remember learning anything from them. I mean, the parish, it's small. I think it ended up being built in 1889, I think it was. St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church in Spartanburg, South Kakalaki. Now, they ended up getting a new parish, which for about 15 years, they were trying to get a new parish, so they were in a gym for a while. And I remember being in there, my teenage years, we'd have mass in the gym, and during those times, people didn't even know to kneel. When they got the new church, Father had to teach them to kneel again. I mean, that's how off we were. I mean, I was an altar boy for years, especially the old parish. I didn't do anything when we were at the gym. Pretty much sat in the back around the 3-point line. Maybe I remember one sermon where Father talked about Mike Dick and the Chicago Bears. One time, one good thing I remember. We were talking up in the choir stand at the old church, the historic church, just because we like to sit up there. There's no one else up there, and you can look down. Not to look. That sounds bad now to look down on people, but you got to look down. It was high up, and I remember my brother and I. We were just talking pretty much the whole time. And this one guy, I remember him to the day. I saw him a few years ago. I don't think I remember, but I remember the time, date, the weather, all that. He comes up to us and pretty much just tears us apart for yapping during Mass. And never forget that. Never did it again afterwards too. Embarrassed and shamed and all that. And we were one of those, like, if you got back to, something happened at school or something and you got back to the parents, it's not like today, when the parents get mad at the teachers. No, they were going to get mad at you. So that was on top of, like, someone else, an older person getting on us. It was like a dad figure in a sense. That hit me big time. Never did it again. But yeah, that was really it. I mean, like when I say I wore the mask with cut off sleeves and shorts and flip flops, I remember Father looking at me and laughing because he was asking about somebody to help do the baskets at the offertory and in the gym, and I'm like, I kind of back my mind. I'm like, well, we're not taking it seriously here, so why should I take it in a sense? So, I don't remember anybody in school time. The nuns were dressed as nuns. Mm-hmm. They ended up being kicked out.
Well, that's one of the awesome things about these Testimony Tuesdays. When we get back, we're going to hear Steve. We're going to hear how it turned around. Now the work he's doing is tremendous. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with our guest today, Cunningham, sharing some of his personal testimony with us. Steve, he's got great content, some of the best, most faithful Catholic content out there today. Sensus Fidelium, Sensus Fidelium Press, sensusfidelium.com, sensusfideliumpress.com. And so we're going to get to all that, but we're getting kind of the backstory to all of this good work, which is just fascinating. And so, Steve, we're up through confirmation, through high school, and then I guess getting into whatever happens next in your story. Please share that with us, and leading us into, I guess, towards the moment or the time of what took place. How did it all change for you? You were just one in the crowd, like many of us were in a high school where really nobody's buying it, and there's people that are Catholic in name only. And we're in that boat, and something at some point, though, by God's grace, it's amazing, and so grateful for you to be kind of plucked out of that, and for something to take place where God breaks in and makes it clear that, nope, this is actually real. Jesus and the Catholic Church is the real deal, and it changes everything. So we look forward to hearing that story. And I'm also curious, as if you had the same experience as me, is that when you did eventually come back, make a good confession, and then receive the Eucharist, receive our Eucharistic Lord Jesus in that state of sanctifying grace as we are meant to, and then the experience that you would have had there. And if at some point kind of the experience of all those confirmation graces that you would not have received at the time of the confirmation, receiving the sacrament in mortal sin, sadly. But then you still gain the character. And then when you get in that state of sanctifying grace, and those graces you begin to receive those graces that were poured out and you hadn't received before. So you kind of get this flood of graces coming in. But very interested to hear your story and how it played out for you. So please continue.
Well, high school was kind of like nothing in there, just because it was, like I said, all ball. There was one time at Spartanburg High School that the teacher said something anti-Catholic, and I remember correcting her in it. And so it's funny how sometimes you can have that. My brother had the same thing happen to him once too. And again, didn't care, but we knew that was wrong and how we could respond to it. And it ended up taking, we ended up went head to head into the principal's office. And I said it was like 10th, 11th grade or something like that. And happened again in community college. Went to take biology class one time, and the guy was trying to, say that he did the whole thing about the Michelangelo and the God's in the image of the mind. He goes, so that must just be God's only in his mind. I go, no, that's again, not in the church, not really into this like we are now. Going, oh, excuse me, no, you got this wrong. That was actually Michelangelo knowing the human anatomy, and notice the arm going around her, around the kid, and touching the woman. That's not Mary Magdalene, guy. But so it's just weird how that all went down. But go down to college, and again, didn't care. Played basketball, and then got on a baseball team in Division II. And I remember coach. We were the only ones going to mass. Even when I played basketball, I was the one taking the van. And coach always said, like, "Hey, believe he's going to mass." And I was like, yeah, I never missed. Didn't care. but never missed. So even like I got the keys to the van on road trips and would just drive the van in wherever we were, found out where our church was. And same thing when we went at USC Aiken and road trips again, or go to mass before the games, brother and I. And then coach would bring in some Baptist guy to do his Sunday thing. And it was my brother and I and the two atheists that would walk out of the dugout, the locker room, when he brought the guy. He goes, we already went to mass, and we're not doing what the Baptist guy is. We're out here with the atheists, or the wannabe atheists. They're not really atheists, but they think it's cool. And then again, my thing in college was drink as much as we could, play as much as we could, and that was about it. Even after college, I got into personal training, same thing. Would go to mass, never missed. The lifestyle afterwards was not at par at all, and just even afterwards, just I jokingly said I ran Columbia, South Carolina at the bars. I would go in with my workout uniform on at the soft openings, sitting next to Steve Spurrier and not thinking anything of it. But it was like, who's who of Columbia? And here's me representing the gym, and people knew where I am. I got the invites, and just like I said, it's kind of I knew where people wanted to know what was going on in the city. They called me up and they hung out with me, and again, we just do my Sunday thing. I'd, get up and go to mass and try to figure out how to recover off that Sunday after that. Long story short, got into another workout to it was during the Obama years. We saw the HSS coming in with the Obamacare stuff, and I was trading and saw the economy going down a little bit, and so I need to get another gig. And my brother ended up telling me, hey, I got a friend of mine. He's looking for help, medical sales. So I jumped all over that, left the gym, went to this guy, was starting to listen to talk radio in the car, because I came out of college straight up commie, basically. I was, I was a weird commie. I was gun grabbing, but also nuking the entire Middle East at the same time. So I was a neocon commie, I would joke. And I remember people saw me changing my mindset on Facebook or MySpace at the time, because people would say, you and your brother would just write things to make the other one laugh. I go, yeah. And then I started saying, hey, this is what's coming from these guys, because I was actually in the medical field thinking, hey, this is, watch out. Here's what's this, there's what they're doing in D.C. And my brother saw what I was doing, so he was like, for Lent, going, you know what, I'm going to write about the saints, for Lent. So his Lenten experience was Saint of the Days for each day of the week, for each day of Lent. And so he goes, Steve's taking church state, and I'm taking the church stuff. So I would look and see what he was doing. And, I didn't care much, but I would read it. And then people would start texting me up, what's wrong with your brother? I go, I don't know. What do you let you just ask him? I mean, you got the contact. And again, I was living in Columbia, South Carolina at the time. So they were saying, oh, he's so arrogant with this Catholic stuff. And, well, you're a South Carolina homer. You're an SEC homer, right? Yeah. Aren't they the best football conference in the land? Yeah. Is that arrogance or truth? And I never heard that answer. Still, 10 years later, I haven't heard that answer back. And I remember getting laid off of my medical job and thinking I was just going to be like, they're going to give me another territory. I was pretty good, which I was. And never did. And I got a random text from my brother that one day that said, ignorance of Scripture is ignorance of Christ. I'm like, all right, fine. All right, I'll read it. And Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew on Monday, Mark Tuesday, Luke on Wednesday, John on Thursday. Next thing I'm texting going, what's next? And after that, it just really went, all in. I remember thinking Mary Magdalene's 7 Demons. Like, wow, I never heard that one before. What else do I not know? And I started getting Bishop Barron was on WGN at the time. I was watching that, and World's First Love by Sheen. That was the first book I ended up popping up after that. And I was starting to go to daily mass, which was right down the street from me at the time at St. Joseph's, and doing adoration, because I was working now from noon to 9 at Time Warner Cable and hated that job. But I would get up, work out, go to mass, come back to the house, relax for a little bit, then go in and listen to people complain about their cable bill for about 9 hours. And while I'm doing that, I'm bringing books in. Every time I hear something on Catholic Answers or something, I'm jotting that down. I'm ordering that book. I'm reading it in between phone calls, and then getting my supervisor to yell at me, who my supervisor couldn't read, but he told me I could read books at the desk. And while the guys across from me is listening to hip hop and scamming people for hundreds of dollars every phone call, not a joke. They would just, oh yeah, here's the discount, and never put the discount in. When you guys want to get on that guy, but you're going to be mad at me for reading Four Witnesses. Never forget it. Yeah, the book Four Witnesses at the time, and I would do apologetics between phone calls with a friend of mine, and maybe I'll put somebody on hold argue with somebody else for a minute, come back, and all right, you want your phone done this way, and so yeah, it's kind of like I remember a friend of mine at the bar. He ended up dying. He found out what I was doing, and I thought it was a great compliment. He said his conversion was impossible, and I said, well, I guess that was that bad. But again, if I really get into it, this becomes an Oprah Winfrey show. So I'm trying not to steer that.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting because it seems like committed to daily mass. And, so you were progressing though in the way that your openness and then starting to have this desire to read more and learn more. But there seems to be all along the line, there's some sense that, you thought this was true in some way, maybe not fully so, or maybe just not linking up those dots that, you actually would have to live by what the church actually teaches. Were you going to confession at all during this time? Did you have any sense of trying to live up to the moral truths at all?
Oh yeah. After with me in sports and workouts on one of those things, and even like I would do now, it's all in. There's no one way or another. It's all in. Like I said, when I was playing basketball at the time, I wouldn't leave the gym until I made 500 behind the arc, and that's after a couple thousand inside the arc, and then play a couple games, and sometimes forget to eat. And I got on a baseball team by just taking a bucket of balls and throwing it out of fence about 2 feet tall, just because no one else was throwing with me, and I wanted to get on that team. I just one of those things. By getting my mind on it, it's all in. So when all that started going, I started, like I said, read myself in the scriptures into the church, and then I was like, I'm going to mass. That'd be stupid for me not to go. It's right down the street. And I start going, and confession on Saturday. We'd go in, gave me an excuse to stay afterwards and hang out in adoration. It was an old, dark, Catholic looking church in Columbia, and just sit there and just hang out there for an hour or so, and before everything else got crazy. But yeah, it changed things. Obviously wasn't doing the 3 a.m. nights anymore or anything like that. And yeah, we were always, and then the sermons found out, because I ended up getting a job with AT&T, and I would work out in the living room. And I remember, just what am I going to listen to when I do that? Because I was doing P90X because I couldn't afford really anything. I literally had a mattress on the ground. They had a box for a drawer, and that was it. And then I would put a laptop that I had and put the DVDs in that and do push-up stuff in there. I'm like, all right, what can I do when I'm doing this? And I was at a friend's house, sharing the rent, $200 at that time, which is amazing now. I don't think you could get that these days. And I would listen to found these sermons online, and I would just listen and work out during that. And if I had a question, I would look it up. And I remember, even something like one priest talked about how Pope Alexander VII condemned passionate kissing before marriage. I'd never heard that in my entire life. That was I was 30 about that time. And I remember my brother and I grabbed 2 different catechisms, and we went, let's look this up. And about the same time, we're like, here it is right here. And it was just one of those, why it was like this righteous anger in a sense. Why haven't we been told this? Listen to the sermons again, but that was the real big thing that got me the ahas, like St. Anne, how they found her relics. One of those, this is amazing. How did I not hear this? And then again, that was almost like a constant daily thing. When this is gold, how do we share it? How do I show other people this? And what else is out there? If we're digging up gold. You're digging more, you find more. You want to dig up more, you find more. You can't stop digging. It's like the Johnny 5 is alive. More input. Finding out more of this. Steve
Cunningham is with us. We're about to hit a break here, but we're going to be back with Steve in just a minute. And what treasures we have. And so you hear how he started to experience this hunger and this thirst for righteousness, for truth. And then just diving headlong into the formation, surrounding himself with those great sources. And now he's transmitting that on. We're going to get to that when we get back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Steve Cunningham. We're blessed to have him with us today, sharing some of his personal testimony of the Catholic faith. Steve is a Catholic husband and father, as well as purveyor of Sensus Fidelium and Sensus Fidelium Press, and we're going to get back to his story in just a moment. But first, do you know the only Catholic mobile phone company in the U.S. today? It's iCatholic Mobile. That's the one. If you have a cell phone, if you have some cell phone service, why not switch it over to iCatholic Mobile? Not only are you getting your cell service from a Catholic source you can feel good about, but also iCatholic Mobile gives a portion of every dollar earned to the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network, which means when you subscribe to iCatholic Mobile, you are helping to fund all the programs on the Station of the Cross, including The Simple Truth. We greatly appreciate you switching over to iCatholic Mobile. You can join today by going to iCatholicMobile.com. That's iCatholicMobile.com. All right, back to Steve Cunningham. So Steve, your story is getting quite interesting, especially it's when you hear an origin story like this, it's interesting when you can kind of connect the dots with the good work you're doing now and how listening to the sermons and the formational aspect and how that was just so rich for you. And I think, again, a lot of people can relate when you have a big conversion and you start to realize all this stuff you didn't know, all this stuff you missed. And it just is so deep and so vast. It continues to go on and on. There's so much that we have from the saints down through the ages, from the sacred tradition, sacred magisterium, sacred scripture. We've got so much. We've just got such a treasury. It's like this inexhaustible treasury available to us. And we are just incredibly blessed to have it. And so to hear how you found that, very interesting. I do want to ask you, was there a first confession that you remember? Was there a big moment coming back that you remember that was, is there a story there that you can share with us about when, or was it more of a process that took place? You can't really put your finger on one moment, but if there is a big moment in there, can you share that with us?
Actually, no, I don't remember one. I mean, it was just gradual, I guess. I mean, I remember hearing here's another sermon on dressing. And I remember going to Mass in shorts and a golf shirt. And this was now, like I said, I'm going back in. And then I hear this one sermon about obviously now the context of this, is the one, the wedding feast when he throws out the guy not dressed. Mm-hmm. And obviously now it's about grace, but this priest was bringing up dress. And again, I never heard about Sunday best and all that jazz. And the next Sunday, I'm in a three-piece. And Father comes up to me and goes, "Steve, what's up? You look like you're at a funeral." I go, kind of in a sense. That's from what I hear. And so that was like the last time I ever wore, like a golf shirt. If I wasn't traveling, last time, my wife and I, we moved from, was out in Colorado for a few years, doing Uber for 4 years, and then came back to the Carolinas. And in between, I didn't have a suit, so I wore a golf shirt in the Mass. Like, all right, you guys want to get on me, get on me. But this is why. But that's out. Besides that, that was the last time I dressed like that. And when I found out about, just everything, just learning about, all right, not doing this again, not doing that again, cussing, not doing that again. I used to use the F-bomb like it was like poetry in a sense. I was able to, all right, not doing that anymore. Cold turkey. It wasn't, I guess a lot of people have this, tendency to stay with their habits, but it was one of those. All right, I hear it. I've heard it, and with these sermons now, I've heard most of them like 20 times each. It was to the point that I couldn't. It was my head. Turn your head away. I still go to a gym, and it's I know not to look. If I see someone in the corner of my eye, great. I mean, I used to be able to do no-look passes easily. I can see something over there going, I'm not looking over there. I can stay focused over here. It's discipline. The Jocko Willink idea, discipline equals freedom. And is part of that with the Catholic faith and learning about this. Okay, go to confession, do this, pray like this. Do it like this. Okay, I can do that. It's that coaching mindset too. Like having coaches telling you how to do this or how to improve on this. Or remember watching Jack Nicklaus golf my way, and I ended up having my best round of golf the next day because it was one of those listen to what the other people do and do it. And that was one of the sermons. One priest I love hearing was always quoting Alphonsus, and I was, who is this guy? And my mom's side, my grandma came from Naples, and he's the Bishop of Naples, and so I was like, this is kind of cool. But he was always quoting, I would say, the Hall of Famers. And as a kid, I had, I remember Pete Rose poster, Eric Davis, Boomer Esiason, had post Jordan, Bird, Magic, and posters all over his kids. And now I got the Saints photo. I get not just these behind me, I had like all over the place. It's kind of like just, all right, I'm taking these down, putting these up. But he would quote call the Hall of Famers. And I remember Dad preaching, you got to read. We never read until he died. And then we started reading. And, but we read it. It's like, all right, read about how to do this. And here's a saint on this. And Father quotes, Climacus and St. Bernard. And like, who are they? Okay, these guys are saying this. Let me look up who these guys are. And goes back to the digging up. And I'm reading Climacus, my first Lent, and the Ladder of Divine Ascent. And blown away by just that. Had no clue who the guy was, but just reading that for Lent. Like, I'm going to give that a shot. I remember that being my first Lent. Trying to go into adoration. I would sit there and read a chapter every day there, and then come back home. It's one of those. We didn't have perpetual, so you came in, you sat down, you opened up the tabernacle. They had a door for a tabernacle behind it, and you knelt, lay down, whatever in there, and. So it's just one of those things. It wasn't one time. It was just a gradual, just like practice. You learn the basics, fundamentals, and you just build on that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so during this time, were you had you already met your wife? Were you already married, or was there a time where you're kind of in a prayerful discernment, even about vocation, and wondering for the first time, hey, maybe I could be called to be a priest? What was the experience like about that?
I did that. I was still single, and I went to Father Smith and Greer was my spiritual advisor. I gave him one of those. He was a Philomena fan as well, like me, and I gave him a statue and put a card in there. Would you be my spiritual director? Yes, no, maybe. And so he and I was going forward for over a year. And one time during Lent, he goes, "All right, here's your Lenten practice. Apply for." The fraternity, and it scared the crap out of me on that because I was one of those like, what if they say yes? And I already had that. The channel started already by then. I started the channel in 2012 with the first was during the Cristeros, the Greater Glory movie, and I was trying to promote the movie and did a terrible job with the video that I made, but it was my first one. And then after that was tons more, and we're still not even at probably not even 50,000 subscribers at the time. Maybe we didn't last 30,000 maybe. And I remember my brother goes, if you get in, you can't do that anymore. And I go, yeah, no, I get it. I have to figure out something. I'll be able to, do it on the side or whatever. And, but they ended up saying no, which was, that's what it is. No, you got the no. Let's move on and move forward on this. And so, yeah, I gave it the old college try because I asked him, would you want me to try these guys? He goes, nope, you're either going here or Papa Strance. The Transvaal Upon Redemptress and Papa Strance, which I'm a big fan of those guys. But if you know anything about Strance, is near Santa Claus. I mean, it is up there. You have to take 2 flights, a boat, much smaller boat, and then you're on the island somewhere up there. I'm friends with all those guys, but he goes, those are the only 2 places I'm letting you go. I was, okay, well, I got the no. So maybe I'll do that down the road. And after that, was able to, I was trying to find work. And then so my idea of trying to find work was going out and doing interviews or pulling down resumes and coming back and plugging some videos together and reading. So I was doing my own, I would say, in a sense, seminary at home by, hey, these priests will tell me to read this. All right, I'm going to read it. And it was usually, as they say, don't read a book that doesn't have the word ST in the front. So mostly it was all saint books, saint authors, and catechism books, and historical church-related religious books, and just devouring them. And then that was literally, if I was not at the house, I was looking for work. When I got back, let's put a video together. What did I learn today? Let's put that up, and let's read this, and write down a phrase, write down this, see if I can remember that. And I was just memorizing apologetic books. Anything I could find, I was gobbling up. Again, it goes back to Morse-wise. If I could sit down with Bird or Chris Mullen back in the day, I would have gobbled up everything they would have said and try to incorporate it in practice. Or a coach saying the next guy the best one who does practice today gets to start the next game. And I perfected Tim Hardaway's crossover that weekend, and it was 6-0 me the next day before I got benched. And it's like, okay, yeah. So it was one of those. If I find the authorities in the sense, I'm going to take it and really put it to work. So yeah, Alphonsus was a big one. I mean, he was just, if you ever read him, I'm sure
he's the best. Yeah.
It's who's heaven, and it's all right. It's stupid easy. It's just, it's so like, all right, here's what it is. Here's what the guys say that are in heaven, and here's how you should do it. And here's their quotes. And then it just, I want more. I want more. I want more. What else? And thanks be to God, he wrote 100 books. So it's easier to find out for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't think of better formation preparing you for whatever your definitive vocation would be. And in this case, ultimately you were called to marriage and family life. And so God's preparing you for all that during this time, really giving you that strong foundation to be the husband and the father that you're called to be, but discerning vocation in marriage, not just discerning vocation in general, but also discerning marriage with a particular person. Anything you can share with us about meeting your wife or the discernment there in marriage, or even just entering into the sacrament of matrimony and beginning family life? What was that all like?
Well, it took years because I was broke I lost count. I mean, I was doing any kind of job I could find. Got down with Knights of Columbus for selling insurance for a couple months, and then Gold's Gym, and was the head trainer there, and just really anything I could find. I mean, I could not keep a job to save my life, and I had no clue about monetization at the time. I mean, I went to Denver, Colorado because there was nothing here, nothing in South Carolina for me anymore. And the whole family was moving out there, so it sounds like I'll go there too. And I couldn't find work, so I found a job in Denver, working at a gym out there. And then a priest friend of mine tells me about Uber, so I started doing Uber 12, 14 hours a day, 5 days a week. So again, trying to work the channel, trying to get that, trying to find any kind of income. So it took a while because, you can't just, hey, by the way, would you like to marry me? I'm broke as a joke and I can't afford you. And we're going to live in a tent if we do this. So it took a few miles of driving, let's say that. And Debbie proposed doing the Karl of Austria. Blessed Karl, heard the thing about him asking the Emperor Zita in front of the tabernacle. So I did that. We genuflected, and I didn't rise and gave her the ring then. But it was one of those, it took a while just to be able to build that foundation. I didn't think it was ever going to get that way because, again, I was living with my mom at the time because I couldn't afford anything, the rent or small rentals, massive debt at the time from just trying to make the ends meet. And yeah, it was one of those just found something that I could keep working on. And again, this wasn't even the channel doing it. I wish someone would have told me years before that I could monetize the channel. It was actually the priest that was telling me, monetize the channel. I had no clue what that meant. I'm going, I would love to. What are you talking about? Because like I said, I would get up at 4 or 3, start at 4. And at the time we had our firstborn, and I wouldn't see them again until about 6 or 7 that night, hang out for an hour or two and go to bed. And then if I'd go back, man, if I would have monetization, I could at least have breakfast with you.
Yeah, so inspiring here with Steve Cunningham, hearing some of his story, and when we get back, he'll share more, and we'll get to some of that immediate story on the Sensus Fidelium channel, Sensus Fidelium Press. What's the story there? But just incredible as he continues to put those videos out, and no compensation or anything at that time, and yet he kept doing it. My sense is that he was doing it because he just wanted to share the treasure he had found. We're going to be back with more. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with Steve Cunningham, our guest today, sensusfidelium.com, sensusfideliumpress.com, and final segment here. So Steve, feel free to go wherever you want to go, but just wondering a little bit more about the story with the good work of Sensus Fidelium. Am I right in thinking that as you found this great treasure of the Catholic faith, that and the sacred tradition, all the writings of the saints, and all of this glorious formational material that we have handed down to us over the past 2,000 years, as you found it and you're receiving so much from it, there was just a natural sense that this needs to be shared. There's a lot of other people that don't know about this that ought to know about it. And so, am I right in thinking that that's kind of how things went down here? And then also, why the YouTube channel specifically, as far as the mode of sharing it? There's a lot of different ways you could share it. What was it about that struck you that, I'm going to make some videos, put them up on YouTube?
No, it's 100%. I remember hearing a confession sermon, and I went, man, I didn't know that. I wonder who else don't know that. And then I started thinking, if I learn something, I'm going to assume that someone else doesn't know that as well. So I'll get it up there for other people to learn from. And literally, it was 12 years later, and I'm still doing exactly that. I mean, I'm still learning. It's like the hair club for men, except now I don't have the hair part on there, but going, we're the old commercial, not just the president, but I'm a client. Same idea. But yeah, that was exactly it. It was how I found this gold. How do I share the gold with other people? The YouTube thing came up just because of those years before when I was working at AT&T and saw those 6 or 7 sermons online on YouTube. And I was going, all right, somebody did a video like that. They got decent views. And at the time, I had no clue about subscriptions, followers, all that jazz. And that was back in the day when it was just part 1, part 2, part 3. You couldn't have anything longer than 14 minutes and 59 seconds, or you had to split it up. And so I figured, all right, what if I get something like this for the Cristeros movie? See if that helps out. Just again, it shows me I had no clue. I'm going, I'll just have that up. It's going to get a bunch of people looking at it. They'll go to the movie. And cause we just went to a buddy of mine, my brother, and we saw that there was 5 other people there, and they were all older than. They knew Moses. Let's just say that. That was it. They had to sit up front because they couldn't see the screen. And it was out for a day. A great movie. As Knights, we didn't promote it at all, really. It was terrible marketing. And I met a guy when I did Uber. He lived in Guadalajara and had no clue about the Cristeros at all. He was actually, by the time we got done with the conversation in the car, he was asking to be baptized. I'm not doing it for you, but you said there's a church across the street from your house. Go do it when you get home. I wish I would have followed up with that guy. But that was it. It was just one of those, all right, let me just get it out there to that kind of median. People like videos. People like YouTube. It was long before Google took over. And let's just keep doing it. And it wasn't, like I said, I'd never kept up with the view counts at all. And I mean, ignorance. I had no idea about any of that. Just let me get it up there. Let me try to get learning how to get the photos, the resolutions, the right ones. Because I just put anything up, not knowing that it probably looked blurry on everyone else's end. Whoops, my bad. But then I had I can't number. Was it like 15,000 videos now? And at the time I was doing one a day. I'm just, all right, I'm doing one. Let me get that up, get one. Let me get that one, get up one. Oh, this is on the rosary? That's pretty cool. Maybe do this at the Vendée? That's pretty neat. Now I would do fairs, and I know you probably heard of St. Paul Street Team. So I was doing my own with my stuff and their stuff. So I would give out CDs, burn like the top 100 CDs on an MP3 CD player, and would hand them out to people. And someone would go by, oh, I know, I'm Catholic, I know everything. And I'd have a Vendée. I wish I had it. You could see it. I made a Vendée banner flag about 3 feet tall. And I go, here's the keys to my car. Can you tell me what that flag is? And they were obviously not have a clue. And I would say track 5. And here you go. And whatever they had. I'm a sales guy at heart, so I was find something that we can relate to, hammer on that connection. Here's track 10, track 12. Oh, you were asking about Eucharist. Here's this one right here. Here's the sacramental. So again, when people ask what's on the channel, I can literally say pretty much anything that's Catholic is on the channel. And then now I got Byzantine priests on there as well, because I've been going to the old rite for years, and TC came down, and here where I was at, we were doing pre-55 Holy Week, which is fantastic if you've never seen. And I was like, well, what are we going to do? Do I go up to Virginia, go to Atlanta with the fraternities down there? And I have a Byzantine priest friend who's literally on the other side of the campus, because we're pre-55, we're 4th century. I said, all right, I'll give it a look. And then I found Father Abernathy, and he's got, Climacus, 100 audios on that, John Cassian, and then finding all these other guys, Moses the Black, and talking about Mary of Egypt, and open up a bigger, more stuff, more can of worms in a sense. So you got, I mean, I like saying I got the left and right wing, Latin and Eastern rites, and they're combined, and nobody really has that in that sense. And I think it's gained even better in the last couple of years. But yeah, using YouTube, it's that idea of where are the people at? Let's get where the people are, and that's where the majority of people do. Like they like clicking the videos, they get suggested for it, and then I see usually about 1 million a month watch. I've been getting shadow banned. It used to be at 2 million, but they had dropped in 1 million in the last 2 months. But still very consistent, and people still watch from 7 years ago. I see comments on videos from 7, 8, 9 years ago to today. So it's nothing it's really timeless, because any of the sermons can be heard today, and nothing's really changed, obviously, except for popes or a different pope here and then, or maybe they bring up something that was actually happened that week, but very rare. Something like the Confessional Rosary or Lepanto sermon, that's timeless. And
yeah, phenomenal. Steve Cunningham. Yeah, Steve Cunningham is with us, Sensus Fidelium. I do just want to get this last question in, just a couple of minutes to go, but Sensus Fidelium Press, can you tell us about that and how that came to be?
A lot of this, you watched Avengers, Thanos, I'll do it myself. So I started doing podcasts because of that, because interviews. I got tired of asking other people for doing an interview. You had to do this on this topic. My wife goes, why don't you do it? Okay, fine. Anything we're doing is we're doing badly, right? So sitting a couple years, was it last year? I looked up, it was about this time last year. I go, what do you think if I start a press? And I was expecting her to say that you're crazy, stop that. She goes, that's a great idea. And so I was going, because I was asked other people, hey, can you get this guy published? Can you get this republished? This Alphonsus has a bunch of books that aren't published. Can you guys do this again? Nobody would do it. So again, Thanos, all right, forget it. I'll do it myself. So I had 2 other guys at the time. I was like, hey, let's put this thing together. And since it started October of last year, and I almost need to buy 100 more ICBNs, because I think I've used 90 in a year. So again, it's one of those go all in type deal things. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it at 900 miles an hour. Like today, I just published a book right before you got on, because a friend of mine goes, hey, this needs to get republished. I know a guy. Let's do it. Let me find a PDF. Boom, done. I put a cover together. It's in a sense, again, the same idea as the videos. Get the stuff out there. It's timeless. Doesn't even care about my name being behind it at all. I know it's going to be up there, and hopefully as long as I don't screw it up, hopefully we'll see how many people have touched in the afterlife.
Wow. That was a quick hour there with Steve Cunningham. Again, sensusfidelium.com, sensusfideliumpress.com. But yeah, so inspiring, motivating to hear his story, and pretty simple, isn't it? Just do the good that is before you, and be diligent and be fired up about it. Have that zeal to go out and share the gold that you found. And we see a phenomenal example here in Steve Cunningham and his good work. Thanks be to God for all that he has done in the life of Steve. And Steve, thank you so much for coming on here today. And again, folks can find you over at Sensus Fidelium, sensusfidelium.com, sensusfideliumpress.com. Check out all the terrific titles there and the many more to come. God bless you all.